I'm Shomo Data, and this is Built to Trust. Today's episode is Hiring as Product Design. If episode 2 was about why clarity beats intensity, this one is about why your team architecture and the way you hire into it determines almost everything that follows: speed, quality, culture, and whether trust compounds or leaks away. When people hear hiring, they often think recruiting, outreach, interviews, offers. That's part of it. But the deeper work is design. You're designing a system that ships outcomes, and every person you add changes the system's behavior. A good design produces reliable value with understandable trade-offs. A poor design produces accidental heroics and brittle handoffs. So we're going to treat hiring like product design. Define the problem precisely, pick the right sequence of components, validate with real-world tests, and ship a thin, reliable first version before you add more complexity. There are 3 pillars I use over and over: role scorecards and 90-day outcome plans, assessing for capable and coachable, and an interview loop that predicts delivery, not just dazzles with intellect. Wrapped around those 3 pillars is a single thread: trust. Trust is the infrastructure underneath every promise you make when you hire. If you hire for trust, commitment, and follow through, you can train capabilities and invent together. If you hire only for capabilities, you'll spend the next year managing promises that slip. Let's start at the beginning: organizational architecture and hiring in the right order. A team is a graph of responsibilities and trust boundaries. The sequence in which you fill nodes matters. I'm a fan of a simple ramp from 0 to 1 and then 1 to many. First, an integrator who owns the outcome end to end and can cut scope, then a partner who complements their weaknesses, then the supporting roles that let the pair go faster without burning out. Leaders too often do the opposite. They hire a constellation of specialists and hope they self-assemble. Specialists without an integrator produce beautiful parts and an incomplete product. How do you know you've found an integrator? Look for people who have shipped small, ugly versions of big things and can narrate the trade space: what they cut, why they cut it, what they kept safe, and how they measured done. Ask for a story where they took a messy interface owned by another team and made it boring. Boring, by the way, is a compliment in systems. If they don't light up when they talk about making something boring, they might be a fantastic inventor, but not your first hire. Once the integrator is in, consider the order that protects speed: an adjacent builder who owns the riskiest interface, a quality or test owner who believes evidence more than slides, and only then narrow specialists. Resist the temptation to hire a leader first if there's nothing yet to lead. Resist the other temptation to hire 5 ICs and hope leadership emerges. Sequence is your leverage. The right first 2 hires make the next 10 easy. The wrong first 2 make the next 50 expensive. Talent availability complicates the ideal sequence. You won't always find your dream integrator when you need one. This is where you do genuine design, not wishful thinking. If the market offers strong inventors but few integrators, you can pair a senior inventor with a program-minded builder who craves closure. If you're constrained to contract talent in the near term, ring-fence core IP and give contractors crisp, testable slices with clear acceptance criteria. If location limits your candidate pool, broaden your aperture to remote-capable work, but anchor a small on-site nucleus that handles integration and test. The point is to compose a team that can ship a thin, real outcome, not to check a box called "we hired." Underneath all of this sits motivation, the carrots. People show up for varied reasons: mission, the joy of solving hard problems; craft mastery, title and scope; compensation and equity; learning and growth; or simply reliable work that supports a life they love. You don't need everyone to share the same carrot, but the carrots cannot pull against each other. If half the team's primary carrot is status and the other half's carrot is quiet craft, you'll get friction. The status seekers will optimize for visibility. The crafters will optimize for quality. Both will be frustrated. Your job is to make the carrots legible and compatible. Here's a practice I use, a motivational contract. In onboarding or even during interviews, I ask candidates to tell me the order of their carrots. Which two matter most right now? What conditions make you do your best work? Then I reciprocate. I say out loud what the team rewards and what we will not reward. If we reward outcomes and learning over showmanship, I make that explicit. If we value reliability and systems thinking over quick wins that rot, I say so. The alignment conversation up front prevents a lot of anonymous disappointment later. What about the classic mix of A, B, and C players? I think of it as energy mix. You need some people who chase the next hill and thrive on scope expansion. You need a larger group who do consistent, excellent work, value stability, and put life alongside work. And yes, you will have some who prefer routine. Used well, that routine-seeking energy stabilizes the team and frees your sprinters for the right races. Used poorly, by pretending everyone is an A player or by shaming anyone who isn't, you create cynicism. The art is in assignment and expectation. Give repetitive, necessary work to people who appreciate predictable flow. Give ambiguous, integrative work to people who crave it. Rotate enough to keep skills fresh and ensure you're more than one deep on critical functions. More than one deep is not optional. It's how you make promises that survive vacations, illness, and life. Build redundancy intentionally. Pair on unfamiliar systems. Write living runbooks. Rotate on call. For any critical job, two people should be able to do it, even if one is primary. This is a design constraint in your hiring plan. If your only telemetry expert is one person, your uptime is a gamble. Hire or cross-train until that stops being true. Now, trust. How do you hire for it? Trust shows up in small, boring signals. Do they do what they said they'd do by when they said they'd do it? Do they tell the truth when reality changes? Do they escalate early with choices, not complaints? Do they credit others and own mistakes? Can they narrate a trade they made that cost them personally but helped the team? When you hear those patterns in stories, and when references echo them, you're hearing follow-through. You can teach a capable person a new stack. It's much harder to teach someone to keep promises. Design your interview loop to surface those signals. Include a work sample that looks like your real work, a small design brief, a review of a flawed PRD, a code or systems exercise where the happy path fails and they must choose a safe fallback. Include a writing task. Write a one-page plan for the first 90 days in this role. Name risks. Define done. Say what you'll need from us. Writing is thinking. The point isn't polish. It's whether they can transform ambiguity into a plan other adults can follow. Include a collaboration test. Pair them with a future teammate on a tiny challenge and watch the way they listen, disagree, and decide. And include a values conversation where you talk about carrots and trust explicitly. Let's get specific about role scorecards and 90-day outcome plans. A scorecard is not a long job description. It's 3 to 5 outcomes you expect the person to own with observable evidence of success. By day 90, ship V, one of the telemetry pipeline for 5 core channels with sub 15-minute latency and 99% success over 10 flights, observed in dashboard A, B, C. Lead 2 design reviews and incorporate feedback. Post a follow-up showing what changed. Mentor 1 junior to ship a small service end-to-end. Pair the scorecard with a 30-60-90. In the first 30, learn the system and ship something small. In the next 30, take a thin slice of a hard thing and make it real. In the last 30, integrate with other teams and show you can operate without hand-holding. The plan is a contract we can hold each other to, and it's how you catch misfit early while repair is still easy. Hiring in the right order depends on your org structure. Here's a pattern I've found repeatable. If you have no team, hire the integrator first. This is your DRI for outcomes, someone who loves the last mile as much as the first. Next, hire the person who kills the riskiest interface. If you're building a hardware-software system, maybe that's a test architect who can detect lies in your telemetry. If you're building a platform, maybe it's someone who has shipped a stable API under uncertain load. Third, hire a builder who loves making others faster. Internal tools, test harnesses, local automation. Only after those three do you bring in narrow specialists. If you have a team but no clear leadership, resist hiring a figurehead who will create process. Instead, elevate or hire a leader who has shipped things in your domain and who is hungry to listen at the 300-foot level as much as they present at the 30,000-foot level. You need someone who asks, what does a day in this role actually look like? Where are the seams? What do we do when it breaks? The leader who understands everyday work will design sensible roles and retain the right people. If you're scaling from one team to many, hire for boundaries, platform owners who love stability, feature teams that love discovery, and glue roles who take pride in integration. The biggest mistake here is hiring only more of what you already have. If you have world-class inventors, you might need world-class finishers. If you have world-class finishers, you might need a small protected invention pod to keep your future alive. Let's talk about the challenges of talent availability and how to get the right mix when you can't get the ideal candidate in the moment you need them. You have 4 levers: grow, borrow, buy, and simplify. Grow, invest in high-ceiling people who can learn your stack. Pair them with someone who knows the system and give them deliberate practice on real problems. You'll get loyalty and a deep bench. Growth is slow at first, but compounding later. Borrow. Use contractors or partners for bounded, testable pieces. Keep core design and risk decisions in-house. Borrow to chase a deadline. Grow to build capability. Buy. If a domain is make or break and you're behind, spend the equity and time to attract a hitter. The mistake is to buy with unclear scope. Top talent smells confusion. Sell them the real challenge and show them where their dent will be. Simplify. Adjust your ambition for this cycle. Ship the thin version that reduces risk and lets your existing people win while you keep searching for the perfect hire. Throughout, narrate trade-offs openly so the team sees the design work, not just the scramble. Now incentives. Aligning carrots is not just about slogans, it's about structures. Compensation is the obvious lever, but beware perverse incentives. If you pay individuals purely on output in a deeply interdependent system, you get local optimizations and knife fights at the interfaces. Consider a balanced scorecard, a base that reflects market and role, a bonus tied partly to team outcomes and partly to company health, equity that vests with time and aligns horizons, and recognition mechanisms that value repair work and glue roles, not just visible launches. For inventors, offer protected days for exploration. For finishers, offer clarity and ownership of stability metrics. For learners, offer a path to mastery. For status seekers, offer leadership opportunities that come with real responsibility, not just titles. The trick is to ensure that when one person wins, the team doesn't lose. Trust, commitment, and follow-through over raw, technical fireworks. Let's sit with that. Technical capability matters. You can't ship without it, but capability without reliability is expensive. I've worked with brilliant people who left trails of half-finished work and relational scar tissue. They didn't mean harm, they just optimized for the wrong carrot, novelty over closure. Hire at least as much for the person who fixes the thing. They broke, who writes the doc no one asked for, who goes to the factory at 6 a.m., because that's when truth shows up. Who sends the, we're slipping and here are the 2 choices, note on Tuesday instead of the we're sorry, note next Friday. How do you spot those people? Ask for stories where they closed a loop no one was watching. Ask how they hand off work. Ask for an example of a time they changed an initial plan because data disagreed. Ask what they do when they're wrong. Then call references who worked for and alongside them, not just managers. Would you hire them again? Is a decent question. Did they keep promises, and what did they do when they couldn't? Is a better one. Let's bring in an idea I wrote about years ago that still shapes how I hire and lead. The hang glider perspective. 30,000 feet is the view of strategy and OKRs. Useful, but blurry. 300 feet is where you can see whether the runway is clear, whether the crosswind matters, whether the team has the tools they actually need, whether the checklist matches reality. As a manager and a hiring manager, you have to be able to touch down at 300 feet, understand what the day really looks like for the role you're hiring. If you can't describe the day, you can't hire the person. If you can't describe the day and the next 6 weeks, you can't retain the person either. People leave when the job they live is far from the job you sold. Retention is a hiring problem, not just an HR problem. If you sell one story and deliver another, you burn trust and churn talent. In the first week, make the day match the story. Put new hires on a small, real problem. Give them a buddy. Give them the map to how we work. Ask them on Friday what surprised them and what's unclear. In the first month, make sure they ship something that matters and see it land with a real user or test. In the first quarter, make sure they've owned a slice of the demo and heard a thank you from someone who depends on them. That's how carrots and reality meet. There's also the question of hiring for values without homogenizing the team. You want diversity of background, thought, and style. You do not want diversity on the meaning of we keep promises or safety beats schedule. Values are the guardrails. Diversity is the set of different drivers who make you faster within those guardrails. In interviews, I'm explicit. Here are 3 things we don't negotiate. We keep promises or renegotiate early, we make safety non-optional, and we tell the truth even when it hurts. Then I look for how people express those values in their own language. If someone is allergic to those, they'll be happier elsewhere, and so will your team. Let's talk failure modes and fixes. The brilliant jerk. Fix. Don't hire them. If you accidentally did, address behavior immediately with clear, observable expectations and consequences. Protect the team's trust. It's more valuable than any single contributor. The moving goalpost. Fix. Adopt outcome scorecards and write done when at kickoff. If you must change, change with an explicit trade. What moves out? The everyone's a DRI, chaos. Fix. Name a driver and an approver for every stream. Collaboration doesn't mean foggy ownership. The hero culture. Fix. Praise quiet reliability publicly. Reward decision logs, clean handoffs, and the person who found the edge case before users did. The underspec role. Fix. Publish a living role doc. Review it quarterly. If the job changed, say so and adjust the scorecard. Sometimes the constraint isn't people, it's the organization. If your structure demands that a single person span impossible responsibilities, you don't need a unicorn, you need a split. For example, if your platform lead is accountable for reliability, feature delivery, and internal developer experience across 4 teams, you've built a role that can only disappoint. Split platform stability from feature enablement. Give each a clear scorecard. Watch both improve. Now, a word on markets. In hot cycles, you'll compete with companies who can pay more and promise shinier toys. Your counter is meaning, mastery, autonomy, and honest scope. Meaning, the mission and the user. Mastery, the chance to learn a rare craft. Autonomy, real ownership, not just slogans. Honest scope, what they will own and what they won't. If you can't offer at least 2 of those in a way that's true, you will overpay and still lose. If you can offer 3, you can hire people who will stay and bring their friends. On the other end, beware of comfort traps. When a team stays too long with one carrot, say, a culture that values polish so much that nothing ships, you'll need to inject complementary energy. Hire a builder who ships small and rough, but safe, and put them in a role where success is a visible win. Or, if you have a fast-moving invention culture that leaves operational rubble, hire a recovery specialist who loves turning chaos into rails and make that work prestigious. You can hire your way out of cultural potholes if you're honest about them. Let's make this painfully practical with a mock scorecard and interview loop for a staff software engineer joining a platform team. Scorecard outcomes. Own V1 of the service orchestration layer. By day 90, handle 3 core services with P99 under 200 milliseconds under synthetic load and shadow traffic. Observed in dashboards DEF with alerts at thresholds GHI. Lead 2 design reviews. Publish follow-ups with what changed. Mentor 1 mid-level engineer through shipping and internal tool. Define and document on-call runbooks. Complete a successful handoff to a secondary owner. Interview loop. Work sample. Read a deliberately flawed design doc for the orchestration layer. Propose a revised design. Call out risks. Define done when X, measured by Y, observed in Z. Pairing session. Work on a small adapter where a flaky dependency fails. Watch for safe fallback and clear logging. Writing task. 30-60-90 plan. List. Risks and what help is needed. Values conversation. Carrots, promises, escalation. Tell me about a time you renegotiated a commitment early. Reference check. Ask peers and reports about reliability and handoffs. Offer compensation in market band. Equity vesting schedule clear. Explicit autonomy. Ownership of outcome with a named approver and a committed integrator partner. Mastery path. Budgeted time for deep dives and internal talks. Clarity. Scorecard attached to the offer. First 90-day plan co-written in week 1. Finally, let's talk about what to do when you mishire. It will happen, even with a great process. Recognize it early and choose a humane, clear path. If the person has the values and the trust behaviors but not the match for this role, move them to a role where they can win, with their consent and a clear plan. If the trust behaviors are missing, slippery commitments, blame reflexes, disregard for safety, coach once, coach twice, then part ways cleanly and respectfully. Your team watches how you handle this. If you act late or fudge the truth, you burn trust with everyone, including the person who's struggling. Clear is kind. I'll close with a principle that connects this episode to the last 2. Clarity beats intensity. Cadence sustains clarity, and hiring is how you scale both. You're not shopping for stars. You're composing a system. You're not throwing bodies at problems. You're designing for trust and outcomes. When you get the sequence right, align carrots, hire for commitment and follow through, and build redundancy on purpose, you won't need to run your team hot to go fast. You'll go fast because the design is good. If this resonated, follow Built to Trust wherever you listen, hit subscribe, and share it with a teammate who's hiring right now. Your ratings and reviews help more builders find the show. In episode 5, we'll talk about accountability as kept promises, how to make clear social contracts, how to renegotiate before you breach, and how to turn weekly check-ins into a system that prevents thrash without smothering initiative.